A warm hello and welcome to you all again. My name is Perry Termine, and I am the host for this year's Network of Practice at InnovED. I'm joined by my colleague, Tioni Marie McLean, Program Manager at OISE Continuing and Professional Learning, who manages a portfolio of various professional learning programs while supporting InnovED's operations. InnovED is the University of Toronto's campus-linked accelerator for innovation in education, housed at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, also known as OISE, specifically in the Office of Continuing and Professional Learning. Today's session is known as a QuickCast, which is a fast-paced 30-minute listen and learn virtual session on a relevant topic facilitated by education experts. And this is our second of the year, so thank you again for joining us. Now, given this format, please feel free to have your tea, your coffee, your lunch, or your snacks with you during the session. Today's QuickCast will feature a presentation by education expert Rosemary Evans on Playful Pathways, the intersection of early childhood education and play-based learning. As mentioned, this webinar is being live streamed and may experience some lag in the video feed, but a live transcription is also available. So if you'd like to access closed captioning, please do so by using the button labeled CC at the bottom of the video on your screen. We also happily invite you all to engage in conversation via the comments today and keep that conversation going via the comments after the session too. Our guest, Rosemary, has very kindly agreed to stay online in that comment section shortly after the session to review and respond to your questions asynchronously with some written responses. So do keep those comments coming. Also, references and resources from her presentation today will be shared with you in a link in the chat at the end of her presentation. Now, there's our housekeeping set. I'm happy to share some background about our work at OISE and InnovED. The Ontario Institute for Studies in Education, also known as OISE, as I mentioned before, is Canada's leading faculty of education here at the University of Toronto, and it's ranked top 10 in the world for education research globally. InnovED, housed at OISE, launched in 2020, and it's the 11th campus-linked accelerator to join the University of Toronto's entrepreneurship ecosystem. We are first and foremost a network of practice of education entrepreneurs who really have a diverse interdisciplinary experience and set of expertise. InnovED members are really committed to identifying and determining opportunities and solutions that will contribute to enabling the goals and objectives of educator and education systems in Canada and abroad. Now, as we do host this QuickCast from Toronto, Canada, we do want to be sure to share a traditional land acknowledgement as a call to reflect on and take action on truth and reconciliation. So we wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to learn, work, and gather on this land. Now, looking towards today's presentation, we know that in today's rapidly changing educational landscape, imagining and reimagining early childhood education is more important than ever for nurturing the next generation of learners. Today's QuickCast is especially relevant for innovators, including entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, and educators who are passionate about advancing early learning. You may have heard the term intrapreneur before. This refers to an individual or group developing an innovative idea or project within an existing organization. So today is an opportunity to discover where and how innovation is most needed and most possible in early childhood education and how you can play a role in shaping its future. With that, without further ado, I'm very happy to introduce our esteemed guest speaker, Rosemary Evans. Rosemary is an educator with extensive experience in both public schools and independent schools as a teacher, a vice principal, a consultant, and a coordinator. Her background includes teaching and program design for JK to graduate school. And during her time as an instructor in the initial teacher education program at OISE, Rosemary was the recipient of a Teaching Excellence Award. As the academic director at Branksome Hall, she also oversaw the implementation of the International Baccalaureate programs from junior kindergarten all the way to grade 12. And Rosemary is the author of several textbooks. She's presented locally and internationally on topics such as assessment and evaluation, critical thinking, inquiry-based learning, and global citizenship education. Most recently, she served as the principal of University of Toronto Schools, or UTS, where she oversaw the reaffiliation of UTS and the University of Toronto. as well as the rebuilding of the historic 1910 UTS building. Incredible. She is currently serving as an expert resident with us at OISE Continuing Professional Learning at the University of Toronto. And with that, hi, Rosemary. It's so wonderful to have you. And thank you for sharing your time and expertise today. I will hand it over to you and I'll begin sharing your slides on screen in just a moment. So let me know if that comes in clearly.
Thank you, Perry. I look forward to being part of this conversation today. And while Perry referred to this as a session led by experts, I believe that indeed there are probably in the audience today many people who have great expertise in the area of early childhood education. And I would say, if anything, I bring to this more of the big picture. But I had a lot of fun preparing for this presentation. And I spoke to colleagues literally around the world, from a United World College in Singapore, to a Montessori school in the Yukon, to a public primary school in Pudong, part of Shanghai, a Ministry of Ed official here, principals and teachers in the province of Ontario. And I learned a great deal and got a good feeling for what issues that are part of the ECE landscape today, and also the excitement. So as you can see, the emphasis of our presentation is on play and innovation. And we'll just move on to the good. And these are the three questions that we're addressing. How are early childhood education and care and play-based learning defined and understood? And what's the context today? What are the current trends and directions and the opportunities, as Perry mentioned? Next, we're going to take a look at the early childhood context. And I found one of the really interesting aspects of early childhood education today is that it is an area drawing a huge amount of interest globally by some of the foremost organizations that shape policy in the world. You can see from the screen, the United Nations, following the Conventions on the Rights of the Child, introduced the Sustainable Development Goals. Goal number 4 is quality education. The OECD has a recent report on providing quality for all in early childhood education and care. World Bank, designing and building environmentally sustainable play-based early learning spaces. So if you haven't seen that document, it's great. And UNESCO, developing international standards for early childhood education, including curriculum frameworks and teacher training. And finally, the World Health Organization. And again, they have reiterated something that I think we all understood, but needed to be made explicit, is that this is the part of the educational continuum that merits a lot of financial resources and other resources and attention. Because if we can improve the foundation for students around the world, we are giving them a chance at good health. We're giving them a chance at developing academic skills, developing the social and emotional strengths that will help them lead very positive lives. So really, this is an area of focus globally. Thank you. And play as an element of early childhood education and care is not new. It is indeed an area with a very long history, and some of the foremost voices in educational theory have been exponents of play. And you can see on this chart, Friedrich Froebel, the founder of kindergarten, said play was the highest expression of human development. John Dewey emphasized experiential learning. Lev Vygotsky emphasized play as a leading source of development for children. Piaget, cognitive development driven by exploration. Montessori, Maria Montessori, play is the work of the child. Gregory Bateson, metacognition and metacommunication through play. Understanding what's happening in the world and making sense of the world comes through the process of play. Reggio Emilia's approach was again based upon the role of play in fostering creativity, communication, and collaboration, and having the environment as the third teacher. And Pamela Toulouse, more recently, equity in education and Indigenous approaches to learning are central to healthy development of children. So what are the elements and considerations that theorists and others emphasize in play-based learning? Well, under play-based learning, we're looking at a child-directed, process-oriented, unstructured approach where the teacher builds the environment for the children to explore and experience. The result is joy. That is the hope. Environments for play, building, creating, collaborating, sensory experimenting. You know, the teacher can take the students into almost indoor environment and outdoor environment. This is critical to experiencing diverse forms of play that can meet the needs of many different students who have their own individual differences. Organizing time for play. The message is clear. Extended blocks of uninterrupted time interspersed with nutrition and activity breaks for students to explore and experiment in a play-based domain. And finally, social emotional learning. I think we think of children playing and we see them, we can observe them figuring out their own self-awareness. Who am I? How do I relate to others? And I think the Castle framework we'll see is one that's very helpful in this regard. So types of play, many different forms. And if you've visited a early childhood education center or a kindergarten or grade 1 environment, there are centers. And those centers often provide opportunities for different types of play as suggested. Everything from dramatic play, creative play, arts-based play, game-based, physical, and more. But once again, it's this notion of child-directed and their sense of agency in exploring the space, and the teacher's role is shaping the environment, providing the resources, carefully observing the children, monitoring their growth and behavior, and facilitating as needed through instruction in small groups and large groups, the developmental goals that they have for each child, which can vary. And play is foundational for bonding relationships and fostering tolerance. I think this quote really is helpful because it's through play that children come to understand we're all different. We have a diverse set of personalities, strengths, areas that we're strengthening, behaviors, and then how do we manage that diversity and form positive relationships. Each child is unique. And here we see some scenes of the environment from different places. And you'll notice children, you know, initially they do, we know from developmental theory, they do individual independent play, moving to parallel play, moving to collaborative play. And you can see different views here of the very small child experimenting with music, of the children working both alone and together, and using the same materials but in different ways. And finally, the young person who is up on a play equipment and obviously engaged in considering and assessing the risks. And that play gives students that opportunity to determine risk, to make their own self-adjustments. And hazard assessment, such a great term, and it teaches resilience. Okay, next one. Now, the day. I just put up these schedules to give you examples, because this is the flow of the day from a Reggio Emilia perspective, a daily schedule from a Montessori perspective, and Ontario's New Balance Day. Next one. And finally, the social emotional learning that has been at the forefront as a result of the work of Castle. And here we see the domains, and that learning self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills. These are the things that will determine one's own self-understanding, ability to get along with others, and so critical for everyone's success in the world. Next. Okay, now I want to mention as well an important document, the Indigenous Early Learning and Childcare Framework. We all have heard the stories of the harm done to children, not only in Canada and other parts of the world, where they were forced into residential schools. What they lost was the family connection. They lost their culture, and they lost the ability to play naturally in the environments that their parents would introduce them to. So this document, only 2022, has helped us to see how to create an environment for play for young people. And Dr. Cindy Blackstock, a famous social worker, has been instrumental in this domain. And there is a right to play movement within the First Nations communities across Canada and beyond. The other trend that is really important is the professionalization of early childhood educators. And there is indeed College of Early Childhood Education now in Ontario and in other jurisdictions. And the importance put on play in the standards of practice is clear. And this is something that is noted, this emphasis on play. Next one. We'll move looking at current trends and new directions. So one of the trends that I identified, and there's probably more beyond what I'm identifying here as major trends, but outdoor learning environments. And this has been, this notion of playing within nature, sometimes with additional structures, has been incredibly helpful, I think, in helping students appreciate nature, appreciate the environment, sustainability, but also play with natural objects. And some schools have newly built ones that I have been visiting, have every primary door leads outside. There are play areas, both wood lots, gardens, ravines. The children have the access to enjoy play in these environments. And then in a few cases, in the school in Singapore and here in Toronto, the YMCA have established what are called forest schools. And these forests have curriculum around play in nature. And you can imagine, all of the possibilities for this area. I'm going to switch over to maker spaces because maker spaces are being introduced with really interesting technology opportunities, including design thinking, 3D printing, the ability to use lots of materials and tools. And libraries have taken a lead. And so children visiting those centers. Technology in EC. I just want to mention a caution. So the various associations of pediatricians have warned that children under the age of 2 should not engage with screens. And from their point of view, even between 2 and 5, it is recommended that recreational screen time be no more than an hour a day. And I think that you can see this as making a determination, how can we best have children engaged? Between the ages of 5 and 17, it's 2 hours a day. Very difficult, but I thought I'd at least put that out there for people to ponder. Literacy and numeracy. Well, we know that there's been some real changes in this domain. Foundational literacy and numeracy has always been a part of early childhood education. Exploring shapes, understanding the terminology that will help build successful math learners in the future. In addition to that, learning to read. So one of the most important documents that has come out was the Ontario Human Rights Commission in response to a concern put forward, published the right to read. And I believe it was parents of students who are dyslexic who were the original innovators in this area. But we now have the recognized need for explicit literacy supports, phonemic awareness, relationship between symbols and sounds. And during the period of whole language, some of this had been pushed to the background, and there were so many other positive aspects, such as readers' workshops, writers' workshops, but that particular piece of explicit instruction, I think some of you will remember Sesame Street brought to you by a different letter each day. And so there has been a number of exposés, investigative reports on the whole language approach to learning. And many of them are outlined in a fascinating series of podcasts called Sold a Story. And the building blocks of reading and writing and decoding have been brought back into instruction, even by some of the language experts. And I do want to mention a very fascinating article that I think will be in the resources by a fellow by the name of Covington, who said, listen, you know what? We need to count on and trust the professionalism of educators who can make the determination as to how to best do literacy and numeracy support with guidelines for diverse students. And, the time each student takes to learn and to be able to sound out words varies. And their time in learning to read, but we can't ignore it. I think this is the message of the right to read. Literacy, numeracy are critical. And I want to point out another resource. As a former principal of UTS, we work very closely with the Eric Jackman Institute of Child Study and the Laboratory School. And that school, they have a wonderful website, as does the Institute. And I'd like to point out a few areas where anyone, looking for innovative ideas. Robertson program is an inquiry-based teaching in math and science with lots of great resources, videos, where to me, the exciting piece was the educators in the lab school partnered with researchers from Boise to co-design opportunities for further research and application. The same is true of natural curiosity, which is the importance of Indigenous perspectives in children's environmental inquiry, that outdoor ed piece. And you can sign up and get the newsletter I do myself, Natural Curiosity. And another interesting one that I work with myself with other teachers and students at UTS was Balance AI, developed by researcher Eunice Jang at Boise. And it is an AI program that does formative assessment and in particular has been applied for English language learners. So all of this you can pick up more details at the Eric Jackman Institute of Child Study. Thank you. So entrepreneurs in the audience and intrapreneurs, I just want to point out a few points. InnovED is here to help you. They are here to provide you with a community of support. And I think the key message all of us have picked up in the domain of startups is focusing on needs. The teacher needs, the student needs, and basing any innovations on those needs. Where are gaps in understanding? John Mighton developed his JUMP program, Understanding Learning Gaps in Math. Embracing co-design between researchers, entrepreneurs, and teachers and students. I think the student voice is so critical. And finally, that constant circle of, is the innovation working? Do we need to tweak it? Can we make it work better? Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much, Rosemary. Um, it's just always an honor to learn from your insight and expertise, and your insights into early childhood education and play-based learning are truly inspiring, offering us really refreshing perspectives and real-world perspectives on how creative practice, design, and research come together to nurture young learners. And you've also highlighted the importance of the inquiry process that colleagues like Balance AI and Natural Curiosity, who have engaged in membership at InnovED, in fact, are committed to, with opportunities for us all to learn more and take part. So thank you so much again, Rosemary. It's always a pleasure to learn from you and soak in your valuable insights and perspectives on advancing early learning through play. With that, thank you all for joining us today for today's QuickCast on Playful Pathways. We hope this session has sparked some new ideas and inspired you to explore how your own work can contribute to shaping the future of early childhood education through play and creativity. Please do stay tuned for QuickCasts coming your way, where we'll work through some of these kinks a little bit more. And we'll be so excited to have you on board to listen into some wonderful expert insights and that embrace that inquiry process together. You can stay up to date through the OISE Continuing and Professional Learning mail list, through the University of Toronto Entrepreneurship mailing list, or you can reach us at OISE CPL through our email. All of the links to that contact information and those pathways will be shared with you alongside the recording and alongside the resource package as well. And as a final call to action, thank you for your contributions and exchange in the comments today. We do encourage you to continue this important conversation through the chat, which will remain in the comments of the live stream. So we will be looking at those asynchronously afterwards to respond to your questions and comments. But also feel free to respond with your thoughts and questions once receiving the recording too. We'd love to keep that conversation going with you. And so with that, thank you once again, everyone. We appreciate your time, and thank you so much, Rosemary, for your time today. We'll say our goodbyes, our farewell, and see you all again soon.
Thank you, Perry. Thank you, Tioni.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.